Awesome that.
I'm kind of excited about today's video because I feel like I have this whole bag of goodies to offer you, and I'm just hoping that you take them all in because there's some really good stuff here. Today we're going to be talking about the Overstayer Modular Channel, created by one of LA's favorite music gear makers, Jeff Turzo. It's one of the ones that you guys have been asking me to cover in the comments of other videos, but honestly I've kind of been avoiding it because it's a bit of a daunting, overwhelming task to kind of really do justice to this thing. But then the stars aligned. My friend Zac Rae was in the studio a couple months ago working with me on some of my new songs, and he saw the modular channel in my rack, and he just kind of made the comment about how much he loved his, how much it was just kind of a mainstay in his workflow. So I said, well, why don't we team up on a video demo? And he said, yeah, sure, that sounds like a good time. Now, for those of you who don't know who Zac Rae is, Zac is currently the keyboardist / multi-instrumentalist for the band Cab For Cutie, but he has lots of other credits as well. He's worked with people like Lana Del Rey, Dua Lipa, Sabrina Carpenter, The Black Keys, Childish Gambino, Fiona Apple, Morrisette, Alanis Morrisette, Norah Jones, and he was a really big part of the last couple Leonard Cohen records, which are personal favorites of mine. He also does a lot of film soundtrack work. He recently scored a film called Winter, Spring, Summer, or Fall. He worked on A Quiet Place, Venom, Turning Red, The Theory of Everything, and shows like The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, all kinds of stuff. Now, I'm not throwing all these credits out there to embarrass my friend Zac, but the point is Zac is working, okay? Zac is working a lot, and the modular channel is a big part of his workflow. And so Zac has been kind enough to invite us into his studio where he's going to kind of take us on a casual walkthrough of a bunch of different ways that he's learned to use this thing to make his work more interesting and more exciting and fresher. And so I really do think there is a lot of value here, even if you never go out and get yourself a modular channel. There's just a lot of tips and techniques and approaches and just philosophies in music making that are in this video if you just kind of watch closely and just watch Zac cook.
We're starting with some drums. This is from my friend Jake Reed's, one of his loop packs. They're great, well-recorded, good-sounding drums. So right now, the unit is on, but it's set pretty flat. So that's bypassed, and that's on. It's just kind of not doing much. So the left is the gain and preamp section, which we're not really using other than just setting a neutral line in gain. Then there is this filter section, which is more like a synth and can be pretty extreme. High pass, low pass, so you can, and then it's resonant like a synth up to oscillation. So you can do some kind of filter sweepy silly stuff like that if you choose to. Right now we're going to leave it open. Then there's the 3-band EQ as a high and low shelf with 3 frequencies each. Pretty self-explanatory. Good sounding, beefy, Neve-ish. A little goes a long way, you know, couple dB of 10K, couple dB of 50. Adds a nice little smiley face if you want to be subtle. This presence control is a little confusing, and I think maybe at some point we'll talk about the frequencies that it goes over, because it sweeps a really wide range from somewhere down around like 200, 300 hertz in a kind of exponential curve up to like 15K or something up there. And, you know, but you can do the normal thing. You can maybe find something kind of boxy and annoying and scoop it out a bit and, you know, do the thing. The compressor is very wide-ranging. Behavior is kind of like a ratio, but it's not, you know, I would say, again, it's probably exponential in its operation. So I would say around 1 is probably a 2-to-1. That is probably around the 4-to-1, etc., etc. Start getting pretty extreme compression, which is very fun sounding, very explosive. Up in these higher settings. 3-position attack, release. Find one that sounds good. There is a sidechain filter on the compressor that is engaged by pulling this knob. So you can see with that down, the kick is really blowing up the compressor. And to me, it's a bit more musical with the kick tamed a bit by with the sidechain filter in. There's also this mode that's an RMS mode that's, I think, a little subtler. But in this case, we're kind of going to blow up the drums, so leave it in. I think that's a pretty fun effect. Now, so this is where things start to get interesting and unique with this unit. Is we have this very extreme compression sound. I mean, it is just exploding. Without it, with it. You go over here to the right, and you have this 3-channel mixer. The top being a choice between completely dry signal or the EQ circuits only. So right now it's set on the dry circuit only. Second control is the compressor feed only. And the third knob is kind of the whole unit, including the drive circuit, which we haven't got to yet. So real simple. There is the dry, totally unaffected circuit. There is the circuit from the EQ coming in here. And now blend in this extreme compression as you might on a console, and you've got this kind of very exciting sound from the compressor and the kind of smiley face EQ, but you've still got the clarity of this dry signal. So that's totally dry. That's with the EQ and the compressor in parallel. Now, there is the drive circuit. So right now, the compressor is engaged hitting the drive circuit, but I'm going to take the compressor out, and I'm just going to use the drive circuit. And there's these second order harmonic, third order harmonic, a more saturated kind of drive, and then lastly kind of like a blown out fuzz type of drive that's happening here. And that's pretty exciting. And start to really crank that. Probably blowing you up a bit, bring that down. So, again, you can do dry, with drive blended in, with compression blended in. Now in this case, the kick is really overwhelming, so I'm gonna put the high pass in just a little bit, probably like maybe 50, to just tame the kick response to the drive circuit. And to me, that is a, you know, from a fairly neutral drum sound pretty quickly a very exciting drum sound, and it's all in phase, it's no latency, it's all analog, it's all fun and hands-on tactile. So, of course, that's perhaps a medium setting for this unit. You can go really extreme. Let's see. I don't even know what's happening now. Oh, I know why it sounds like that, because I turned the resonance on the filter all the way up. So there you get a much more extreme sounding. And it's now we're in like Trent Reznor territory. Totally crazy sound design possibilities. There is this extra hard limiter here. You can hit that as well.
Is that the ceiling?
That's the ceiling. It's a brutal brick wall limiter that you don't really hear it until you're hitting it, and then it's just
it's not very pretty, right?
Not very pretty, but it's pretty fun. So again, that's our dry sound. But you know, you can see you can still blend them. And do interesting, very musical things. And you can even sort of you know, you can perform it if you want to, you know, sort of.
Okay, I think it's worth pausing for a moment just to talk about that crazy oscillating high pass filter we just witnessed. What's going on there? Let me show you real quick. So over here on my screen, I've got a FabFilter Q4. You can see I have a high pass filter dialed in here. If we go down to our Q adjustment, our bandwidth adjustment, and start to push that, look what happens. Before we have our drop off, we start getting this big bump, and as we push it further and further, it gets more and more intense. Now, this is what's happening inside the modular channel. However, in the modular channel, it gets so intense, it gets to the point where the circuit itself starts to oscillate, okay? And we get that note at whatever frequency we have set for our roll-off. Now, that can yield some fun results, as we just saw, but you can also not dial it up quite so intensely and just kind of bring it up to, not where it oscillates, but where it starts to kind of just ring a little bit, or where it gets kind of sensitive to a certain frequency, and you can kind of dial that in on different instruments. Check that out in this next example.
So, just try some knob twiddling with some electronic drum, just something out of the OP1, I don't know, factory sound, goofy loop. And then, I don't know, wherever we left off. Immediately, pretty fun and inspiring, insane sound. But let's just see what happens if we... All right, so there's kind of a clean, basic sound. You know, you can definitely use the EQ. However you'd like. So here I'm sort of trying to do the thing where I'm trying to get the high pass to actually oscillate with the kick.
There it is.
Yeah. So like without it resonating, the kick drum, and then you kind of generating an artificial sub way down, you know, 40 hertz or something. So it's pretty fun sound. So then let's kick in the compressor a bit. And yeah, I mean, you can see the meter jumps so quickly. But that's a pretty, you know, That's flat. That's, you know, the whole system hard bypassed. That's a pretty fun sound.
Okay, we definitely need to take a moment to talk about that crazy compressor.
I mean, it is just exploding.
So the ratio can become so severe on this that it not just becomes a limiter, but it can also move into like negative ratios, and which creates all kind of weird envelopes. What I mean by negative ratios is, as you know, with a regular compressor, as a sound comes up and hits your threshold, a compressor kind of holds it back from getting very much louder. It kind of almost puts a weight on the whole thing so it doesn't rise quite so much. That's what a compressor does. A limiter, of course, sets a threshold, and then no sound is allowed to get louder than that threshold. Negative ratios go even more intense. As a sound comes and meets the threshold, it actually pushes it down. I have this image of like a rubber ducky being pushed down into the water and then trying to come back up to the surface, and every time it hits the surface being pushed back down into the water. I'm a weird guy, but that's kind of what it's doing. Now, if you set a fast attack time, that means you can completely like erase or obliterate any kind of, you know, intro transient to any sound and just get the tail or the ambience in the background. If you set a slower attack, then you can get that first peak of the transient, then the pushing down of our ducky, and then the return back to the surface. So you get this crazy compression envelope, and all kind of shapes kind of come out of this thing in really fun and unpredictable ways. You're going to see a bit of that on this next sample.
The clean sound, right, is kind of a very kind of plain bell sound with a bit of OP1 uniqueness. And then there's this reverb added to it. This kind of glossy reverb that the newer OP1 has. And what's happening is the compression on here and the distortion, you know, it's kind of obliterating the dry sound.
Got you. And then, okay. That was my question.
And almost making it have like a soft attack, even though the sound has a hard attack. And it's creating this almost infinite sustain pad. And that can be a really interesting effect that I've used from time to time.
When I first saw the modular channel, the only thing I could think about was drums, 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 you know, maybe interesting loops, you know, sound effects, things like that. But it's a really usable tool just for shaping things within a mix. And that's what these next samples are going to kind of highlight.
You can really take things like synth sounds, Juno or a Prophet or something like that. I do this all the time, and add an extra degree of saturation and add extra filtering and EQ to get it to really be, to sit in the track against guitars and drums and bass and all these other, you know, other instruments. This is a Juno 60 basic sound, could not be more sort of normal, but just to sort of illustrate that you can use, you know, so basically set flat, you know, you can do pretty extreme filter cuts, and you can start using, you know, the drive. Basic sound, you know, engage. Things like that can like really help a synth cut through a track. Using the compression with the kind of extreme settings and parallel, you know, you can bring a lot of to, you know, that's the basic Juno sound, and then you've got this really attacky, you know, kind of thing over the top of it, which again can just really help these synths in a modern context. Okay, so another thing that's super useful for me, it's doing an MS-20 synth bass, and synth bass is one of those things that, you know, it sounds great as it's going down, but then you're kind of often struggle to get clarity with it in a track, because the sub frequencies aren't really what speak, and you have to get harmonics on top of it. And this is a great use for this, where you can sort of add distortion, harmonics, but still blend in the fundamental. And that's something that, you know, again, in a track, super useful. Kind of generate harmonics from nothing. Actually, I think I like that a bit better.
This might be a good time to jump in and just say, hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, or leave a comment on what you think of this crazy thing. Do you have one? Do you use it? How do you use it? Do you wish you had one? Do you think this thing is trash? Do you just do this with plugins? I don't know. Whatever you want to say, please say it in the comments below.
Normal kind of sounding P bass, nothing. And then blending in maybe, because I'm adding a lot of treble, maybe using the low pass to tame that clicky. I mean, to me, that's another sort of like problem solving. I want to add excitement, but not completely obliterate the track, obliterate the source. I mean, you can completely obliterate the source.
On a bass, if you start trying to resonate the filters. It almost writes a new bass line for you.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely doing something. As demented as you want to be.
As demented as you want to be is a pretty apt statement about the modular channel. So this next sample is going to be less about shaping things and more about total transformation. But one extra thing to listen for in this next sample is, although the modular channel is built very well with pretty tight tolerances, between left and right, it's not perfectly accurate between left and right. And then of course, if you have a stereo signal coming in, that signal isn't exactly the same between left or right. So as you start to go into more extreme settings, those little nuanced differences on the side start to really speak pretty differently, and that can really help things kind of spread out in a mix and just really have kind of a life of its own. That's something worth paying attention to in this next sample.
So there's your basic sound. You can kind of create something totally different.
Completely different. Oh, I love, you could really perform that.
And that's, you know, that's like an insane, that's a very insane sound. That's a film score right there. And that's from, you know, your very, very basic Juno arpeggiator just ticking away. It's its own instrument palette. You can see possibilities are endless. A lot of fun just to fuck around and find out, I think is what the people say these days, right? There, it's almost like reverse. Sounds like you've put a reverse effect on it. Sounds like I'm doing a filter sweep, but I'm adjusting the compressor threshold, so go figure. All from that.
So again, you know, my first thoughts about the modular channel are drums and obliterating synths and, you know, crazy stuff like that, but it does beautiful things with really natural sounds as well. Next, we're going to go listen to some piano.
So, some very, you know, sensitive, quiet piano, as is the style of the day. Start turning some knobs.
It's like an otherness machine. Just brings an otherness.
I mean, the piano's very pretty, but then it's making it into something totally.
Yeah, it's not just piano anymore.
Curious. So I did this over one of Jake's loops. I'm curious if you start blending that in. Hi, Jake. There he is. That's very cool sounding. Totally mysterious and it sort of evolves over time. You just move the controls really subtly. You have to be very gentle with this thing because, I mean, you turn it sharply and the sound completely changes. But you can perform it kind of This is over that same drum loop that we started off listening to. Pretty fun. And that's what it sounds like with the unit bypassed, which is, you know, sounds like music, but this is different music. Well, I like it.
I don't know about you. I think this is pretty inspiring stuff. I really love this box. I can't wait for the next video. I've got a really, really fun, interesting whole experience to share, not just a piece of equipment, but it like led to this whole experience I can't wait to talk about. But until then, that's all I got. See you later.